Hello, everyone, dear viewers of the channel. I am Helena, the guardian of secrets, a researcher of mystical phenomena, and here with me is Vadim, a historian interested in folk culture.
And as always, I'm ready to dissect the fascinating but sometimes rather imaginative tales Helena brings to us, seeking the grains of truth or cultural insight within the magic.
Today, Vadim, we're diving into one of the most primal fears, something that resonates deeply with our ancestors and, dare I say, still stirs unease in us today: the fear of stolen souls. Not just death, but the actual loss, the theft of one's very essence.
An intriguing concept. From a historical perspective, the idea of a soul itself is fluid across cultures. What exactly did our Slavic ancestors understand by a stolen soul? Was it physical death, a loss of identity, or perhaps a psychological state?
Our ancestors believed the soul, or dusha, wasn't just breath, but the animating force, the consciousness, even the very luck and health of a person. To have your soul stolen meant utter devastation. It wasn't just about dying, it was about being an empty vessel, or worse, having your soul trapped, used, or enslaved by dark entities. Legends speak of witches, or strigas, who could steal a newborn soul to strengthen their own magic, leaving behind a sickly, crying changeling. Or the mavka, the beautiful, seductive forest spirit who could lure a young man and steal his soul, leaving his body lifeless, a mere shell in the woods.
The changeling myth is certainly widespread in European folklore, often attributed to various supernatural beings. From a rational viewpoint, these stories served multiple functions. Firstly, they provided an explanation for inexplicable infant deaths or severe developmental issues, giving parents a narrative framework for their grief. Rather than a child being born defective or dying from disease, its soul was stolen, a more palatable and less guilt-inducing explanation. Secondly, it could have been a way to enforce social norms, especially regarding the protection of children.
But Vadim, the fear went beyond just infants. There are chilling tales of adults whose souls were stolen. Consider the V, whose gaze could steal your very life force, which many believed was tied to the soul. Or the sorcerers, who could conjure your spirit out of your sleeping body and hold it captive, leaving you in a deep coma, withered and lifeless until your soul was returned. My grandmother once told me a story about a man in her village who fell into a sudden, inexplicable catatonic state. The elders were convinced a local witch had stolen his soul for a ritual. They performed an elaborate protective ritual involving smoke, herbs, and ancient incantations to try and call his soul back. And he did, eventually, wake up.
That's a fascinating anecdote, Helena, and it brings us to a crucial point. When we talk about stolen souls causing catatonia or a coma, we are touching upon phenomena that modern medicine would diagnose as severe psychological or neurological conditions. The belief in a witch stealing a soul would have been the culturally accepted explanation for such states, especially in times before scientific understanding. The cure, the ritual, might have worked through the power of suggestion, the placebo effect, or simply coincided with the natural remission of the condition. It gave the community agency, a way to fight back against the unknown, rather than simply succumbing to despair.
But can we truly discount the energy, the intent behind such rituals? Our ancestors believed certain places, crossroads, or even objects could hold a person's essence. A lock of hair, a piece of clothing, these weren't just personal items, they were extensions of the self. To lose them to an ill-intentioned person was to risk your soul being manipulated or, indeed, stolen. There are stories of love spells going horribly wrong, where the intended spirit would become listless, their joy extinguished, as if their free will, their very soul, had been co-opted.
Indeed, the concept of sympathetic magic, where a part stands for the whole, is universal. From a historical perspective, these beliefs about personal items were a form of psychological defense and social control. It taught people to be wary, to protect their belongings, and to mistrust those who seemed overly interested in them. It also created a powerful framework for explaining misfortunes. If a person fell ill or suffered a string of bad luck, it wasn't just coincidence. Someone had malicious intent, perhaps using a lock of hair they acquired. It created a reason, even as that reason was a soul thief.
So, the double conclusion here is that while modern science might explain the physical symptoms, the cultural belief gave meaning and a framework for intervention. And often, these interventions, whether they were protective amulets or rituals, brought comfort and a sense of control to people facing the inexplicable. Losing knowledge of these beliefs means losing a deep understanding of how our ancestors grappled with life's hardest mysteries. It's part of our shared cultural soul, if you will.
I agree that these stories are invaluable for understanding the human condition and the historical psychology of a people. They tell us about fears, hopes, and how communities made sense of their world. Whether a physical soul was literally stolen by a witch is debatable, but the cultural impact of such a belief was undeniably real. It shaped behavior, community dynamics, and even early forms of healthcare.
And the echoes of these stories still resonate. Haven't you ever felt a sudden chill, an inexplicable sense of loss, or an overwhelming fatigue, and wondered if something unseen was taking a toll on your spirit? I believe that subconscious fear, that connection to our ancestral past, is very much alive.
Perhaps. Or perhaps it's just the modern pressures of life manifesting as a familiar, age-old sensation. Either way, the legends continue to serve as a fascinating mirror to our deepest anxieties. We've touched on a profound topic today, Helena.
We certainly have, Vadim, and I hope our listeners are thinking about their own connections to these ancient fears and protections.
For those of you intrigued by the intersection of myth and history, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and have hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive.
And we always love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever heard stories of stolen souls in your family or region? Share your experiences and questions in the comments below. We read every single one.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep wondering,
And keep guarding your soul.